we cut across to breaking news coming in. The Indian embassy in Moscow has said, and I quote, "We see no security reasons for Indian students to leave Russia." This is the latest advisory that is coming in from the government to Indian students who are in Russia. And the Indian embassy in Moscow saying we see no security reasons for Indian students to leave Russia. This is a big development coming in also from the point of view of how the Indian government is confident that the Russians will take care of the Indian students, and they can be rest assured at a time which is very, very sensitive, and especially how students have been evacuated out of Ukraine. This message holds a lot of importance from the Indian government, as the Indian embassy in Moscow saying we see no security reasons for Indian students to leave Russia. And we cut across to more breaking news coming in back home. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who's just tendered his resignation to Governor Anandiben Patel at Raj Bhavan in Lucknow, as his first tenure has come to an end. It's been a landslide victory for the BJP in the state of Uttar Pradesh, having backed and stood victorious in the state of Uttar Pradesh. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who has already now tendered his resignation before he is sworn in again, and the resignation has been submitted to Governor Anandiben Patel at Raj Bhavan in Lucknow. On that note, a quick check of the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Biowarfare face-off intensifies. Russia and the West trading charges over development of bioweapons. UN Security Council to hold a crucial meeting at 8:30 p.m. India time on the bioweapons claim. Vladimir Putin meets Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko as more troops line up on the Belarus border. Putin agrees to recruit volunteers from Middle East to join Russian forces. After Putin's move, Syrian fighters line up to join the Russian offensive in Ukraine. EU's green light to Ukraine membership diplomatic process begins. And this is an important message from Putin, because he's calling on Syrian volunteers. The clamor in Middle East to join the Russian forces is growing. Syrian army soldiers who apply tactical signs Z to their equipment, and veterans of the armed forces of the Syrian Arab Republic, fighters of the Christian militia, and former opposition fighters come to the assembly points of the army. They ask if there is a recruitment of volunteers who want to stand up for Russia in the same way that Russia stood up for Syria. And Syrian fighters who are now preparing to join the Ukraine war to fight from the side of Russia. Remember, this is a message that has been put out by Putin. He himself is calling, Syrian volunteers. Let's listen in to what he said.
Касается сбора со всего мира наемников и направления их на Украину, мы видим, они не скрывают, западные спонсоры Украины, украинского режима, не скрывают этого, они это делают в открытую, пренебрегая всякими нормами международного права. Поэтому если вы видите, что есть люди, которые хотят на добровольной основе, тем более не за деньги, приехать и оказать помощь людям, проживающим на Донбассе, ну что же, надо пойти им навстречу и помочь им перебраться в зону боевых действий. Это первое. Второе, что касается поставки вооружения, тем более западного производства, которое оказалось в руках российской армии, конечно, я поддерживаю возможность передачи их в воинские подразделения Луганской и Донецкой народных республик.
Colonel DPK Pillai now joining us on the broadcast. Colonel, break down these details for us and what this could mean, how this could impact the war further on, the kind of developments this would lead to, and most importantly, the global repercussions this could have.
The use of mercenaries, this is not the first time that it is going to be happening at all their use. It's been used world over. We've seen them in the fight during against the US forces, and the ISIS has employed them, inspiring people to join them. So the fact that mercenaries are available, there's a thing called the French Foreign Legion, which is composed of mostly of foreign fighters who create it's a very fierce fighting on. Even in the ancient days, most of the people working in India with the East India Company or the other Dutch companies were all mercenaries who worked for a wage. So getting these people, this fight outsourced to people from outside is a very, very regular way of outsourcing. And the Americans have perfected the art over the last couple of years with this beginning with the contractors that they had called the Blackville Security Contracting Company, which would actually, they're private security providers. So mercenaries use is only going to make the cost of war lesser in terms of human lives for these people. And the other breaking news, of course, is the fact that in a couple of hours that we're going to see the biological allegations of use of biological weapons that is coming up here is going to come up for discussion now. The fact is that the Americans, it's one of the most failed, it's because the governments had refused to tow, like unlike the nuclear agreement, the biological weapons convention never had a verification agreement because they had two aspects to it. You had to verify them, but acknowledge them. And the world has been, and we know that the COVID, that is outbreak that took place from a military lab in Wuhan. So this is something which is very significant. The fact that the governments, especially democratic governments like the West, have actually had an agreement with Ukraine 15 years ago, funding them with $15 million to actually carry out study on biology. So, and this agreement is publicly available. So that's an interesting development that we can actually watch out for in the discussions that are coming up.
Right. Thank you for that, Colonel DPK Pillai.
In the days since the West imposed sanctions on Russia, ordinary Russians are fleeing the painful effects from rising prices to not being able to purchase certain items. Many Western clothing retailers, including both mass market and luxury brands, suspended operations, leaving desolated shopping malls behind. Japanese clothing chain Uniqlo is also temporarily closing in Russia following a social backlash over its earlier stance that its 49 stores will stay open. This comes after other major consumer brands like Zara, Coca-Cola, Apple and McDonald's left Russia. Rating agencies also cut its debt rating for Russia further into junk status and warned of an imminent default on sovereign debt. The central bank has stepped in to bolster the ruble and the banking system, restrict withdrawals in foreign currency and keep the stock market closed for nearly 2 weeks. The government has also announced measures to restrict foreign investors from fleeing. Agency report for Republic TV.